Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Lady in the Library. Today I have a very special story for you about an ancient Egyptian queen named Queen Nitocris. If she truly existed, she may have well been the very first female ruler of Egypt, but she would unfortunately meet a very grisly end, as her final act upon this earth was to see that her husband's murderers were brought to justice at the cost of her own life. Now there's a lot of speculation about this mysterious queen, what her name is, when did she rule Egypt, or even if she existed at all. And it turned out that her story is a lot more complex than I thought it was at first, so once I started digging around, I was able to find out this about her. Queen Nitocris is the Greek name for Nitocrit, or other Egyptian variations such as Neterkar or Nitocurti, meaning the soul of Ra is divine, which I think is very pretty. Supposedly she's the sister and wife of Pharaoh Meren-Ra Nemtisef II and the daughter of Pepe II and Queen Neith. Hope I got those names right. Even though ancient Egyptians were excellent at recording anything and everything, it seems, any documents from the end of the 6th dynasty, when she supposedly ruled, are either too confusing or non existent. It was during the collapse of the Old Kingdom, so it was a very chaotic time, both politically and socially. I'll read to you one of the best and relatively only detailed accounts of her by the well known Greek historian Herodotus, who was told this story by a group of priests. From his book, The Histories, it says, after him came 330 kings whose names the priest recited from a papyrus roll. In all these many generations there were 18 Ethiopian kings and one queen, native to the country. The rest were all Egyptian men. The name of the queen was the same as that of the Babylonian princess Nitocris. She, to avenge her brother, he was the king of Egypt and was slain by his subjects, but then gave Nitocris the sovereignty, put many of the Egyptians to death by treachery. She built a spacious underground chamber. Then, with the pretense of inaugurating it, with quite another intent in her mind, she gave a great feast, inviting to it those Egyptians who she knew had the most complicity in her brother's murder. And while they feasted, she let the river in upon them by a vast secret channel. This was all that the priest told of her, except that when she had done this, she cast herself into a chamber full of hot ashes to escape their vengeance. So that is the main story and the most detailed version. It's quite the tale, a brave queen who was crafty enough to punish her husband's killers by building a chamber to secretly divert the course of the Nile to drown them, but at the same time sacrificing herself tragically. Ancient Egyptians tried to uphold the 42 laws of Ma'at, which is law, justice, truth, morality, and others. So for a queen to murder several people, granted, bad people, it wouldn't have gone well in the eyes of the people. On the other hand, would she have willingly taken her own life, especially in such a painful way? I've not found any source to really explain the room full of hot ashes idea. Maybe it's a large walk-in stove in the palace kitchen or something like that. Seems a little weird to me, but if anyone has any ideas of what that could be, let me know in the comments below. Or perhaps she had been a victim of another act of treason against the royal family and her murder was passed off as her own choice, simply to be rid of her and that whole line. So that's something to consider too. It's very odd how King Tut's wife disappeared in a very similar way, simply gone with no explanation, but it's almost certain that she was disposed of after King Tutankhamun died. She was extremely vulnerable. She is also one of my very favorite topics to discuss, so I'll definitely be doing a video about her very soon. Now moving on to names. Nitocris seems to be known by many of them, but still remains elusive. The name Nitocris is mentioned not only by Herodotus, but also Manetho, an ancient Egyptian priest and historian who said she was a fair complexion and the bravest and most beautiful woman of her time, adding that she's said to have built the third pyramid and reigned for 12 years. Eratosthenes, hope I pronounced that right too, an ancient Greek scientist in his Theban list of Egyptian monarchy says that she ruled for 6 years from Thebes and that she was the 22nd ruler since Menes, saying a queen, not a king, that her name means Athena the Victorious. Josephus, the 1st century Jewish historian, remember him from Salome's story, he quotes Herodotus' story about Nitocris, but he calls her Nicole, or a variation of that name. So what is it that's caused the confusion? While the name Nitocris is mentioned in several stories from these scholars, on official documents in Egypt, there's only 2 names that are mentioned that are very similar. Nitocris's name seems to be a distorted version of the name Neterkar, found on the Abydos Kings list, and also from the name Nitakarti Sipta, found on the Turin Royal Canon. The two names on both documents line up accurately time-wise, and it comes right after Merenra Nemtisev II, her husband, so they can be identified as the same person. The problem is that Nitakarti is feminine. When you compare that to Netakari Sipta, it gets complicated. The name Sipta, son of Ta, is masculine, hinting at a male pharaoh, not a queen. So it could be that Netakirti Sipta is abbreviated to Netakar, and then more abbreviated to the name that we know as Nitocris. So it kind of goes in order, it just gets shorter and shorter until you get Nitocris. A good point would be that Hatshepsut and Sobek-Neferu both ruled as pharaohs, but they were both skipped over on the Abydos Kings list. So chances are she may have been skipped over too had she ruled. So while there isn't a whole lot of evidence that she existed, that doesn't mean that she didn't exist. So there's plenty of rulers that only have a name left to remember them by, and there's plenty of examples of wanting to erase certain figures from history, like what happened to Hatshepsut or even Nefertiti. The next ruler tries to erase the previous for various reasons. While rare, women in ancient Egypt did rule at times, either as a pharaoh like Sobek-Neferu or Hatshepsut, or as great chief wives. So while we may not have any evidence to prove exactly that Queen Nitocris was real, like a document or a statue or even a little cartouche to identify her with, and at best a tomb, her existence at the moment is mixed with the historic and mythical. Time will tell which proves to be correct. So do you think that her story is mythical or historical? Do you think it's possible that she did carry out that plan and that there was a huge cover-up afterwards? Or did something else happen to her? So who knows? We can only speculate at the evidence presented, but I think we do have a lot to work with, and we'll see. So let me know in the comments below what you think of this video, what you think of Nitocris, and who you would like to see me talk about next. I think King Tut's wife, Ongsen'paatsin, will be great, or later known as Ongsen'amun. So thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more in the future. Hit the notification bell for when the next video is posted. Until next time, thank you guys. Bye!